A powerful billionaire returns home after a decade, only to discover the love of his life has been reduced to begging on the streets, hiding a heartbreaking truth. The sun dipped low over the horizon, painting the city in golden hues as a private jet descended toward the familiar airport. 10 years. 10 long years of endless work, boardrooms, and business deals that had taken him across continents. And now, finally, he was home. His heart beat faster with a mix of excitement and anticipation. After all this time, he would see her again, his wife, the woman who had once been his world. Stepping off the jet, he felt the warm air of his hometown brush against his face. Memories flooded in, the quiet mornings in their garden, her laughter echoing through the halls of their grand house, the simple way she used to hold his hand when the world felt heavy. She must be waiting for me, smiling that smile I've missed for so long, he thought, a smile tugging at the corners of his lips. The limousine waited at the tarmac, gleaming black under the amber streetlights. As he settled into the plush leather seat, he gazed through the tinted windows, watching familiar streets pass by. Everything looked the same, yet he felt the weight of change lingering in the air, though he dismissed it as excitement clouding his senses. Inside, his mind wandered to the reunion he had dreamed of countless times. He imagined her standing at the door, eyes lighting up, rushing into his arms as though no time had passed. Perhaps she would even tease him about how much he had changed, the lines on his face from stress, the silver in his hair. And he would laugh, pulling her close, whispering that no matter the years, nothing had ever changed between them. But as the car turned the final corner, approaching the mansion he once called home, a strange unease settled in his chest. The gates, though shining in polished metal, seemed heavier somehow. The garden, once vibrant and alive, looked still, as if holding its breath. Could it be that time has changed more than just me? He wondered, a subtle tremor of doubt creeping into his thoughts. Finally, the massive front doors came into view. He took a deep breath, imagining her standing there, waiting. Just a few more steps, and I'll see her again. But when the doors opened, the house greeted him with silence. Not a whisper of laughter, not the faint rustle of curtains in the wind. Everything was immaculate, untouched, but it felt cold. The air carried no warmth, no familiarity. It was as if the heart of the home had gone missing, leaving only its shell behind. He stepped inside, the echo of his shoes ringing in the grand hall. A fleeting pang of worry brushed against him, but he pushed it aside. She must be here somewhere, he whispered to himself. And yet, a question lingered in the back of his mind, heavy and persistent. Where is she? For a moment, he paused, closing his eyes, taking in the silence. 10 years had brought him wealth, success, recognition. But what use were they if the most important part of his life, his love, his home, felt so distant? And in that stillness, one truth became clear. Sometimes returning home reveals more than just the passage of time. It reveals the heart of what was truly lost. Moral line: true wealth is measured not by riches, but by the love that waits for you at home. The grand gates creaked open, welcoming him into the driveway he had once traversed countless times. But instead of the warmth and life he remembered, the mansion stood in quiet emptiness. Dust coated the marble floors, and faint cobwebs clung to the corners of chandeliers that once sparkled with sunlight. Every step he took echoed unnaturally, a hollow sound that made his chest tighten. He called out her name softly at first, letting the voice float through the empty halls. "Maria, are you here?" No reply. Only silence. His heart skipped a beat, and a cold knot formed deep inside him. He remembered how the house used to greet him with a soft rustle of curtains, the faint aroma of her perfume lingering in the air. Now it was lifeless, like a stage set left abandoned, mocking his expectations. Moving from room to room, he searched desperately. The living room, where they had celebrated anniversaries, now seemed like a museum of memories frozen in time. Family photos stared back at him, their smiles frozen on glossy paper. The kitchen, once filled with warmth and laughter, smelled faintly of stale air. Every familiar object only emphasized the absence of the one presence that truly mattered. Confusion gave way to panic as he realized she was nowhere to be found. He rushed to the master bedroom, flinging the door open. The bed was neatly made, untouched, as if waiting for someone who would never return. Where could she have gone? His mind raced with possibilities. Had she left of her own choice? Was she hurt? Was someone keeping her from him? A short, sharp question formed on his lips, though no one could answer it. How could everything I loved vanish in my absence? His hands trembled as he ran them along the banister, hoping for some clue, some sign that she had merely stepped out for a moment. But the mansion offered none. Only emptiness. Only silence. He paused in the grand hallway, breathing heavily, feeling the weight of 10 years pressed down on him. All the successes, all the wealth, all the power, none of it mattered if he could not find her. The house, though magnificent, felt like a prison without her warmth, a reminder that time and absence could strip life of its meaning. I should have been here. I should have protected her, he thought, guilt twisting in his chest. Outside, the wind whispered through the tall windows, carrying a sense of foreboding. He realized with a sinking heart that the mansion, his palace of triumph, had become a cage of unanswered questions. Every empty room seemed to echo the same painful truth: something precious had been lost, and he had no idea where to start finding it. The air of mystery pressed down, urging him to look beyond the walls he had once called home. The search for answers had only just begun. Moral line: a home without love is a palace of emptiness, no matter how grand. The night had deepened, and the streets outside the mansion were bathed in the dim glow of flickering street lamps. He walked briskly, heart pounding, scanning every shadow, every passerby, as though one glance could reveal her hidden presence. The familiar world of his childhood streets now felt alien, cold, and unwelcoming. His steps echoed against the empty sidewalks, and each echo seemed louder than the last, mirroring the growing dread inside him. Then, from the corner of his eye, he noticed a small figure huddled on the edge of the road. She was draped in tattered cloth, hunched over as if the world had crushed her into nothing. The weak light revealed a pale, fragile face, lined with hardship that time alone could not explain. His breath caught. Something about her, an instinct, a memory, a spark in her eyes, felt painfully familiar. He paused, frozen for a moment, trying to force his mind to rationalize what he was seeing. Could it really be her? The thought seemed impossible. His mind raced through the years, the love they had shared, the laughter, the quiet mornings, the countless promises whispered in secrecy. And here before him was a shadow of the woman he once knew, diminished but still alive. He stepped closer, the gravel crunching under his polished shoes, but his voice trembled as he spoke. "Excuse me, are you?" The woman lifted her gaze slowly, eyes meeting his. There was recognition, but also confusion, fear, and resignation. She flinched slightly at his presence, as if she had been trained to brace herself for disappointment. He felt his chest tighten, the world narrowing down to the fragile figure before him. How could she have fallen so far, so completely? Anger, sorrow, and disbelief surged through him all at once. He reached out instinctively, but fear stopped him. Was she really the same woman he had loved, or had time and suffering changed her beyond recognition? A passerby hurried by, ignoring them, leaving him alone with this startling vision of loss. His heart screamed a question he could barely voice. How could life take someone so precious and leave them like this? The city lights seemed dimmer now, as though mourning the silent injustice that had befallen her. He knelt slightly, careful not to startle her, searching for any clue in her expression, any sign of the woman he knew. Her eyes, though shadowed with pain, held a flicker of the soul he had once adored. In that moment, he realized that this was not just a reunion of bodies, but a reunion of hearts that had been separated by years of misfortune and neglect. The night wrapped around them, silent and heavy, but he felt an unspoken promise stir within him. He would not let her remain lost. He would restore her dignity, her life, and perhaps even their love. Moral line: sometimes, the most heartbreaking sights awaken the deepest determination to love and protect. His heart hammered in his chest as he took a hesitant step closer. The figure before him seemed smaller, frilier than he remembered, as if life had slowly chipped away at her strength. Her hair, once glossy and perfectly kept, now hung in uneven strands, dull and lifeless. The clothes that draped her frame were torn and patched, yet somehow the curve of her shoulders, the tilt of her head, carried the unmistakable elegance he had loved so dearly. For a moment, he froze, unable to breathe, unable to speak. Every detail of her suffering pressed painfully into his chest: the dirt smudges on her skin, the hollow look in her eyes, the trembling hands that reached out instinctively for coins that might never come. It can't be her. Can it? The thought flitted through his mind, desperate to protect him from the unbearable truth. Then, in the faint glow of the street lamp, he saw it, the faint scar on her wrist, a small, almost invisible mark he had traced with his fingers years ago. Recognition struck him like a thunderclap. The woman before him, the beggar, fragile and broken, was his wife. The realization sent a shiver through him, sharp and consuming, as though the ground had been ripped from beneath his feet. Shock mingled with guilt, and his mind raced to comprehend the impossibility of it all. How could she endure such pain without me? Her silence, once a source of comfort, now felt like a haunting echo of his absence. Her eyes, once full of life and laughter, now told a story of suffering he had never imagined, a narrative he had been blind to for far too long. He wanted to reach out, to take her into his arms, but fear and disbelief held him back. His voice trembled, barely a whisper, "Maria, it's really you, isn't it?" She flinched, a reflex born of years of hardship, and yet in that flinch there was a glimmer, a recognition, fragile but undeniable. His world had shifted in an instant. Everything he had known, everything he had believed about his life, now felt incomplete and hollow without her presence. A rush of memories collided with the sight before him. The joyful mornings, the quiet evenings, the soft laughter, the promises whispered under moonlight. And here, standing broken yet still alive, was the woman who had once made every moment worth living. The contrast was unbearable, the weight of the years apart pressing down on him with relentless force. He swallowed hard, feeling tears sting the corners of his eyes. Every ounce of pride, every accomplishment, every material possession seemed meaningless in comparison to the sight of her suffering. And in that quiet, devastating moment, he knew that nothing in the world mattered more than bringing her back, restoring her dignity, and healing the wounds time and circumstance had inflicted. Moral line: true love is not measured by time or wealth, but by the courage to face suffering and restore what is lost. The cold night wrapped around them, but the space between them felt heavier than any winter air. He knelt beside her on the curb, searching her eyes for answers, for any clue to the mystery of her pain. She looked up slowly, and in that gaze, he saw a storm of emotions: grief, fear, pride, and a sorrow so deep it seemed to pull the world into shadow. She began, her voice trembling, fragile yet steady, "I tried to survive. After you left, everything fell apart." Her words landed like stones on his chest, each one heavier than the last. Memories flashed through his mind, those dreams they had shared, the promises he had made, the life they had envisioned together. How had it all crumbled in his absence? She continued, telling him of betrayal by those she trusted, of doors closed when she sought help, of nights spent hungry and alone. She endured all of this alone? His mind refused to grasp the scale of her suffering. She had hidden her pain, her tears, her despair, keeping them locked away, perhaps to spare him the weight of guilt. Yet, the silence had not protected him, it had only deepened the tragedy. He listened, each word cutting into him like a blade he had never felt before. Her voice wavered as she described the cold stares of strangers, the relentless struggle for survival, the loss of her dignity, and the cruel indifference of a world that had turned its back. "I didn't tell you. I couldn't," she whispered. "I wanted to protect you, even if it destroyed me." A flashback appeared in his mind. The bright mornings, her laughter echoing in their home, the gentle way she had held his hand and reassured him. And then the 10 years apart, the unanswered letters, the missed calls, the empty promises of return. All of it now collided with the woman in front of him, diminished but still holding on, a fragile testament to strength he had never fully appreciated. He reached for her hand, trembling, his voice breaking. "Why didn't you ever call me? Why didn't you fight to find me?" She shook her head, tears brimming but unfallen, her lips quivering with both sorrow and defiance. "I did fight, in my own way. I survived because of the love I still had for you, because I hoped one day you would come back." For a moment, they simply held the space between them, the weight of 10 years settling into a silence that was both unbearable and necessary. He realized that her suffering had not been just a consequence of life's cruelty, but a sacrifice, one she bore silently so he could continue his world of wealth and triumph without the burden of her pain. How could I have been so blind? He thought, guilt and shame twisting in his chest. Every second of absence now felt like a crime, a failure he could never fully atone for. But the sight of her resilience, of her unbroken heart beneath layers of suffering, stirred a determination in him, a need to restore her, to heal what had been shattered, and to make amends in every way possible. Moral line: true courage is often silent, and the deepest love sometimes endures in shadows. The city lights blurred through his eyes as he knelt beside her, heart heavy with a weight he could no longer ignore. Every breath seemed to carry the echo of his mistakes, every heartbeat a reminder of the years he had spent away. He had built empires, acquired wealth, commanded respect, but none of it mattered. None of it could undo the pain that now lay bare before him. Guilt gripped him like a vice. How could I have been so blind, so selfish? He thought, his chest tightening with every pulse. He had chased ambition, dreams of power and recognition, while the one person who had given meaning to his life suffered in silence. The magnitude of his neglect hit him in waves, each one sharper, more unforgiving than the last. Her eyes, tired but still holding a spark of the woman he loved, met his. She said nothing at first, only waited, her fragile frame trembling with the weight of unspoken sorrow. He took her hand gently in his, feeling the coldness of neglect, the fragility that time and hardship had carved into her body. He whispered, almost to himself, "I will fix this. I will make it right. I swear." But the question lingered, heavy and bitter. Can love really undo years of pain? His mind raced, imagining the long road ahead, the trust he would have to rebuild, the care she would need, the love he would have to prove in every small deliberate way. Yet, amidst the fear and uncertainty, a resolve took hold. He would not allow regret to paralyze him. He would act. He would fight to restore her life, no matter how impossible it seemed. He led her to the warmth of his car, wrapping a soft blanket around her shoulders, feeling the trembling in her hands. The streets, once indifferent and harsh, now seemed like witnesses to his determination. He vowed silently to himself, "I will not fail her again. I will not let the world crush her any longer." Each word, each thought, became a promise, etched in the core of his being. As the car drove through the city, he imagined the steps they would take together, the food, the home, the gentle care that would heal not just her body, but her heart. He pictured her laughter returning, soft at first, then stronger, brighter, filling the spaces that had been empty for far too long. The thought of redemption, of restoring the life she deserved, ignited a fire inside him that no amount of wealth had ever sparked. For the first time in years, he realized that love was not passive. Love demanded action, sacrifice, and courage. And as he vowed to dedicate himself entirely to her healing, he understood that redemption was not just for her, it was for him as well. The journey would be long, the pain perhaps unending, but nothing could stop him now. Moral line: true love proves itself not in words, but in the courage to make amends and restore what was lost. The first rays of morning filtered through the curtains, casting a soft glow over the room that now felt alive again. The mansion, once a place of silence and emptiness, had begun to breathe with warmth and possibility. She sat on the couch, wrapped in a soft blanket, eyes still weary but brighter, a faint smile tugging at the corners of her lips. He knelt beside her, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face, and for the first time in years, he saw a glimmer of the woman he had loved, strong, resilient, and alive. Days passed, each filled with small, careful acts of care. He held her hand as she learned to trust again, spoke gently as she shared her memories, and offered patience when tears came unbidden. She is healing. And I must be patient, gentle, and steadfast, he thought, understanding that redemption required not only promises but consistency, and a willingness to face the pain together. They walked through the gardens once more, the same paths they had strolled in happier times. But now, each step carried the weight of their shared history, the love that had endured absence, the hardship she had survived, and the strength that had carried them both through despair. He marveled at her courage, at the quiet determination that had allowed her to survive when the world had abandoned her. She looked at him, eyes glistening, and whispered, "I thought you would never come back. But here you are." He felt a lump in his throat, the weight of guilt slowly lifting, replaced by the tender hope of renewal. He replied softly, "I am here now, and I will never leave you again. We will rebuild, together." In the following weeks, laughter returned to the house. Their conversations, once strained with silence and unspoken pain, flowed freely again. Shared meals, quiet moments of companionship, and the simple comfort of presence began to stitch together the fragments of their fractured lives. The mansion no longer seemed cold or empty. It was home, because they had brought each other back into it. Yet even amidst this renewal, a question lingered in his mind. Could they truly move forward, leaving the shadows of the past behind? Each day offered an answer. Forgiveness, patience, and shared strength gradually replaced the bitterness and despair that had threatened to define them. In every smile, in every soft touch, they found proof that love could endure more than time, more than hardship. It could heal, transform, and rise stronger than before. One evening, as the sun set behind the city skyline, he held her close on the balcony, feeling the warmth of her body against his, and whispered a silent vow to never take her for granted again. The journey had been long, painful, and filled with uncertainty, but they had arrived at a place of peace, love, and hope. Together they faced the future, not as broken souls, but as two hearts restored, ready to embrace the life that awaited them. Moral line: true healing comes when love, patience, and forgiveness join to create a stronger tomorrow.